Hey guys, Caleb here with Steve Meyer's Service today to go over the second video in our 5-part tutorial series on how to properly service your Toro Timecutter. Today we're going to take a look at how to service the deck on your Timecutter. So some of the tools that we're going to need is a jack stand, we're going to use a blade balancer, a deck leveling tool, we're going to use a 5/8 socket, we're going to use an extended length ratchet so that we can loosen the blade, we're going to use a putty knife so that we can scrape out the deck. We're going to use a air-powered buffer with a sanding pad so that we can sharpen the blade. We have a block of wood so that we can chalk our blade to both remove and to install. And then we have some wheel chocks for when we lift the mower up, that way it's not going anywhere. So first off, what we're going to do is get the mower up in the air using the jack stand and lifting it. That way we can get under there, remove the blade, scrape the deck, and actually sharpen the blades. So stay tuned. Alright, now that we've lifted the front of the mower up in the air and have it suspended with the jack stand, what we're going to do is we're going to use our ratchet with our 5/8 socket. We're going to use our block of wood. We're going to place the wood in the middle and on the right hand side, as you're sitting on the mower, the right hand side of the deck, so that we can use that block of wood as a chalk, and then we can take the nuts off that hold on our blades. Alright, now that we got our blades removed, what we're going to do is go ahead and use our putty knife, and we're going to go ahead and clean the underside of our deck. Now this is a pretty new mower, so it's not super dirty under there. Depending upon how long it's been since you last cleaned the underside of your deck, it could be pretty packed with debris. So don't be afraid to take some time, get it all nice and clean. It's going to really help you get a better discharge quality or mulching quality when that deck's all cleaned out how it should be. Alright guys, now that we got our deck scraped out and our mess cleaned up, we're ready to go ahead and sharpen our blades. So I have a second lawnmower blade here to show an example. On this particular mower, the blade that we took off has a bit of an arch to it, or what we call a whoopty blade. The other blade has a nice straight edge on it. This straighter edge is going to be easier to sharpen, but you will find usually one of these two blade designs on your lawnmower. This one you just need to make sure you take your time with, and just, take it a little slower, because contouring with that bend can be a little harder than just going along that straight line. The other thing that we're going to need before we sharpen it is our putty knife again. What we're going to do is get this dirt and debris off. Again, this is a pretty new lawnmower. There's not that much grass built up on the blades, but over time, or depending upon how long it's been between your sharpenings, there can be a fair amount of grass built up, and you want to make sure you get that all scraped off. Alright, now that we got our blades all nice and sharp, I realized I forgot to mention what tool we were using. So that is a air-powered right-angle die grinder with a sand pad on there that I use to sharpen the blade. You may not have this tool at home. You can also use a 4-inch angle grinder, and that will get you the same job accomplished. I'd like to mention this is not the tool that we use to sharpen our blades. We have a big commercial grade blade sharpener. However, we're trying to simulate doing this service at your house or at your home, so that's why we're using hand tools and using ratchets and those kinds of things to try and simulate the tools that you might have in your garage. Alright, let's get these blades installed. Alright, so now that we have our blades reinstalled, what we're going to do next is go ahead and take our belt off so that we can inspect our belt. We're also going to inspect our spindle bearings and our idler pulleys to see if there's any bearing noise. So first thing we're going to need to do is remove the belt. Now your manual will tell you to use a tool like this. It has an L shape at the end, and that's going to let you pull back on your tensioner assembly, and that will give you enough slack in the belt to where you can remove the belt. You're more than welcome to do that. However, you can also remove the belt and reinstall it without needing any tools. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab on the belt right here, and in an upward diagonal angle we're going to pull and spin the belt at the same time. What you need to make sure though is that you don't pinch your fingers, but in doing so that's going to roll the belt right off the pulley, and then we'll have relieved our belt tension, and then we can inspect our belt. Let's go ahead and check it out. And just like that, we got our belt off. Now what we can do is go to each spindle, spin the spindle, and we're listening for a growl noise. Same thing with the idler pulleys. You can go to each idler pulley, spin the idler pulley. And then for your deck belt, what we want to do is go ahead and take that off, and then we're going to inspect it by hand. Look for any cracks, any frays, any rips. As long as there's none, then we're good to go. I'm going to get this belt back on and routed and everything, and then I'll show you the final step for how to put it back on. When you're needing to reinstall your belt, you do have your diagram right here on your deck as a sticker. So go ahead and use that. It'll tell you exactly how to route your belt. So give me just 1 second. Alright, so now that I have my belt routed around all my pulleys, I'm ready to go ahead and put it on our final pulley. I always prefer to install the belt on the left-hand side. On mowers, the left-hand side is used as the trim side, meaning it has no opening, and they typically offset the deck to the trim side to give you more room. So I think when installing your belt, it just gives you more room to do so. So what we're going to do, kind of similar to how we took it off, we're going to take our belt on the right-hand side, we're going to pinch it like this, and then we're going to start to roll it around the pulley like that. Now I'll need to use both hands, so I'm going to set you down and show you how. Alright, and just like that, the belt is on, no tools necessary. Did not have to exert a lot of effort or anything. Only thing you want to do is just make sure you don't pinch your fingers. That'll hurt you a bit. Alright, on to the next step. Alright, so now on to the last step of servicing our deck is going to be the deck level. So right here on each side, and for every model it's going to be different, but for this particular model it has this hanger design here. And these different pinholes are what's going to adjust our deck level left to right, and there's one hanger on each side of this mower. So the farther back the holes are on this side, the more it's going to drop the deck. The farther forwards, the more it's going to raise the deck. One thing that you want to keep in mind when leveling your deck is that your tire pressures are very important. Now that kind of dribbles over into our next video, so I will put the details for the tire pressures in the description, but we're not actually going to physically go through and do the tire pressures at this exact moment. That'll be in our next tutorial video. So now that we know what we need to adjust if we need to level our deck, then the next thing we're going to need to do is use our deck leveling tool here. And so what this does is as you unscrew it, it's going to raise, and as you screw it in, it's going to lower. And this is what we use as our gauge for height. So what you want to do is set your deck to a height. Then what we're going to do is unscrew or screw in this tool right until it passes, just like that. And then we want to go ahead and check the blade on the other side. One thing to definitely keep in mind, our blades are sharp, so use gloves if you need to, put a little piece of tape over the blades, or just be extra careful while you're doing this step. So I'm going to run over to the other side. We're going to see if it's level. Alright, so that tolerance there is less than 1/8 of an inch. The book will tell you that 1/4 of an inch is acceptable. We at Steve Meyer's Service say 1/8 of an inch is acceptable to us, so anywhere between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch left to right is a good tolerance. So that means that our deck is level, that we don't need to adjust anything. Another thing to keep in mind, when you're leveling your deck, you want to make sure that you're doing it on the most level and flattest surface that you have in your garage. So don't put your front wheels and your back wheels on two different spots in the concrete, or two different concrete pads. You want it all to be in the same spot so we have the most level surface. But now our deck is nice and level, so we'll be getting a flat, even, smooth cut. Alright guys, that is it for the number 2 video in the 5-part tutorial series for how to service your Toro Timecutter. And we'll be on to number 3, which is going to be tire pressures and tracking. So stay tuned for video number 3. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.